Hello, Hamburger Generation, Jamil Hamburger. This is Jamil, your host on the podcast. Now, I want to give you a quick backstory about this video. So, if you've listened to episode number 27, which was titled Poops and a Coincidence, you might be familiar with this backstory. So, about a year ago, I decided to go and visit my brother in London, where he was doing his master's. And on one day during my trip, he told me that he had too much studying to do, so he couldn't hang out with me. So he gave me a list of 10 different areas in the city that were worth checking out. And I decided by complete random choice to go to Shoreditch. The only reason I picked Shoreditch was because I just liked the sound of the name. Shoreditch. So I went to Shoreditch. And I had a burger here, had a drink there, read my book here, and suddenly I needed to use the bathroom very urgently, like a good old number 2. So as I was walking around, I was too embarrassed to just walk inside a restaurant and use their bathroom and head out, because aib. So I opted to hold it in until I found the perfect opportunity, which was a theater, and I found one. So I walked inside this random theater, and to my surprise, I found a sign that said the Moth event at that theater. Now, for you who are not familiar with the Moth, it is a storytelling event where you get on stage, tell your story in front of an audience, and they take recordings of these stories and they publish the best ones on the Moth podcast. Isra and I are avid listeners to the Moth, and actually it was one of the biggest inspirations to creating Hamburger Generation. So needless to say, I was ecstatic to have seen the Moth event happening there. And so I approached the guy and I told him how much for a ticket. I bought my ticket, and then he told me we actually have a spot open for a storyteller. The theme of the night is bamboozled. Do you happen to have a story under that theme, and would you like to come on and tell your story? I had the perfect story for that theme. So I signed up as a storyteller, went to the bathroom and took a dump and came back to tell my story at the Moth, which is this video. Enjoy.
I trust you've done your research. Don't be like me.
Hi, everyone. So I graduated with an accounting degree, and during the time of this story, I was working as an auditor at one of the top 4 accounting firms in Dubai, UAE. You guys might be familiar with that area. But I was sent to a very important client on my first week of work. Now, this client was in a really big building in that country, one of the biggest, actually, not to be mistaken with Burj Khalifa, though. So I went there with a couple of colleagues of mine. So working away, I wanted to prove myself, so I decided to work a bit extra and late. In fact, before that, the general manager of the client came to us, and he started talking to us. And you know when someone really important is talking to you and you really don't want to seem stupid, so no matter whatever they're saying, you just keep nodding your head and being like, yep, I fully understand what you're saying. We are competent auditors over here. We fully know what you're talking about. So whatever he's talking about, I totally didn't understand it. It went one ear, out the other. But all I caught and all I could remember was an automatic locking system in the office. So in my head, I was like, just make sure you're not the last person to leave. Working away. 6 o'clock arrives. My colleagues decide to leave. I want to prove myself. So I told them, oh, you guys go ahead. I'm going to put in an extra hour, you know? So they leave, and I'm just making sure there is someone from the client constantly there. So I'm working, and I'm saving my work into the cloud, and the T-boy comes in. T-boy tells me, sorry, man, I kind of want to leave. You're the last person here. I'm like, yes, of course, automatic locking system. I'll leave with you shortly. All I need is 2 minutes to save this thing. He's like, all right, cool. He goes away. My thing saves, close the laptop, put it in my bag. Let's kickstart the weekend. And I'm looking around and there's no T-Boy. Like, that's weird. I go to the door. Surely it's locked. I'm like, okay, T-Boy is probably in the kitchen, nibbling on some snacks before kicking off the weekend. So I go to the kitchen. I'm like, T-Boy? No T-Boy. I'm like, T-Boy's probably in the bathroom taking a little leak just before the weekend. Go to the bathroom. T-Boy? No T-Boy. I had like a slight freak out, but then I really had a freak out when I checked my phone and it was off, no charge, and no charger. I was like, oh my God, if I'm locked in here, I'm locked for 2 days. The client is gonna walk in, he's gonna see me with a full thick of white hair, and I'm gonna be calling my bag Wilson, and do I even have enough food to eat? I went to the kitchen, I saw like 5 cookies, that's all they had, 5 cookies and a jar of milk, and I was like, well, I guess I could survive. Anyways, I calmed myself down like, come on, you're not gonna be locked in here for 2 days, that's silly. So I go to the secretary's desk and I scrummage around and I find this number that's for, it said security number of the tower. I'm like, okay, all I need to do is reach to them somehow. There, I am not kidding you, there are like 30 or 40 landline phones, all keypad locked. So I just grab one, start 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. 5, 5, 5, 5. Nope. I sat there for an hour doing that, and it was just not working. I'm like, silly me, I got my laptop. I open up my laptop, talk to some of my colleagues, and I told them, man, I'm locked inside this office. Can you call the security number and tell them to come upstairs? He's like, haha, that's hilarious. Sure, I'll call them up. He calls them up, security guy comes up, and it's a see-through door, glass door. And he goes like, you don't have the key? I'm like, no, I don't have the key. He's like, oh, me neither. I'm like, well, what the hell are you doing here then? So he's like, okay, I'll go get help. I'm like, okay, go do that. In my head, I was like, at least I got someone working from the outside. So I go back to my laptop. I'm like, man, it was like another hour. At this point, it's been 3.5 hours in this office. And I'm like, dude, I am just pissed right now. Like, I don't care. Call the client. Tell them to send someone and get me out of this automatically locked office. He's like, okay, fine. He calls the client. Client gets back to him after like 15 minutes, and I'm gonna read the message as it was sent to me. Jamil, ... The client says there should be a button next to the door that allows you out. And I look next to the door, and there's a button surely there, and written in highlight green, please press this button to exit. So I pick up whatever was left from my dignity up, and it was the only moment in that episode where I was really hoping I would be locked inside this office for the entire weekend. But I press the button, door swings open automatically. Oh, like, damn. And the weekend was ahead of me. And I'll add the really bamboozling part of the story is that I went downstairs and I find the security guard who's supposed to be working for me sat cross-legged looking at a TV monitor directly into my office, hanging out with a bunch of his friends, and they're just laughing at me as I was walking out. That's my story, guys. Thank you so much.